6 presentation, 10 minutes each. I'm sorry for that, but please be short as far as possible. Okay, as a keynote, I like to make a presentation a little bit about the regional development of IODE. To save the time, first of all, I'd like to show the conclusion first. My talk is essentially touch on this point. It is substantially important for the promotion of the marine scientific research and services. The important point is to enhance oceanic data and information exchange, which was already emphasized by Julian and Vladimir during their presentations. And so more effective and sustainable ocean data and information management should be developed through the closer cooperation between regional subsidiary bodies and not only global perspective, but also the regional perspective is quite important for that. The third one is that it is essential for the successful implementation of the UN decade, the main target of the discussion today and tomorrow. That is important to establish international open access to the ocean data and information, fully taking into account our data policy, which was adopted already year 2003. The principle is a free, open, and unrestricted exchange of the oceanographic data. So we have the regional activities within IODE, which is called ODIN, Oceanographic Data and Information Network. The concept was developed in 1990s. More than 20 years ago, and there are 6 ODINs ongoing, and some of them have been will be touched upon some of the presentation after me. For the ODIN Africa, most successful one, providing the very quite important opportunity for the African countries, the opportunity of the capacity development of the oceanographic data and information management. In this region, I mean the Western Pacific region, we have a subsidiary body called WESPAC, but before WESPAC, we had the very successful project called Cooperative Study of the Kuroshio, CSK. During that time, the Japan Ocean Data Center served as a data center called Kuroshio Data Center, which was very successful and by producing the data products, including the publication guide to CSK data. So based on that successful the completion of the CSK, the WESPAC subcommission of IOC now was established in 1979. Firstly, it was the regional committee for the WESPAC, and then upgraded to the subcommission of IOC in 1989. So with regard to the WESPAC the data, there was the Responsive National Oceanographic Data Center, RNDC for WESPAC, hosted by Japan Oceanographic Data Center again. And but for some reasons, we decided to abolish that system of the Responsive National Oceanographic Data Centers in year 2005, I guess. And then the part of the Responsive National Oceanographic Data Center for WESPAC, a part of the role of the data center have been taken care of by the ODIN WESPAC. And with regard to the term of reference of the Responsive National Oceanographic Data Center WESPAC was like this, maintain close cooperation with the world data centers at that time, and also enhance the IOD activity in the region. That is the main target of the discussion of this session. Previously, already we discussed and promoted the regional framework. Within the regional framework, the IOD activities here through the RNDC WESPAC activities. The WESPAC provided the training courses among the member states of the Western Pacific WESPAC. Westward training course on oceanographic data and information management since 1982, supported by Japan Funding Trust, provided by the Minister of Education. And the photo, this is myself. I was one of the lecturer during my younger age many years ago. But I suppose, I believe this kind of activities provided a very good, a very unique opportunity for the data managers in the region to know about what is the data management and what is the requirement of the oceanographic data and the information in the region. And then after the abolishment of the responsive national ocean data center of the Westpac, the pilot project of IODE in Westpac established in 2003. Initially, with the leadership of the Japan Ocean Data Center, and then reformed in 2007 with the leadership of Dr. Shi Xuan, the NMDS of China. And objective of the project is described like this, and including capacity development in the region in terms of the oceanographic data and the information exchange or management. Other regional activities I'd like to mention here is one of the regional workshop held in almost 20 years ago, held in Langkawi, Malaysia in 1999, which was aiming at the enhancement of the data and the information management in the region, in close cooperation with the member states in the Westpac. I was there, and also the Norio Baba, who is a local host of this meeting, was there. As a local host at that time, he was working for the Malaysian government. So this is a very good initiative for us to promote the data and information management in the region. This is just an example. And IODE in Westpac is one of the discussion point during our session starting on Wednesday. We need to reactivate and promote the IODE in Westpac in terms of the data management, the activities in the region. And we also prepared the discussion item at the IODE 25th session of IODE starting on Wednesday, under the agenda item 3.72, which is trying to enhance the cooperation between the regional subsidiary bodies and IODE. So I'd like to ask the speakers after my presentation, if you have any idea on this kind of issues, please provide some idea. I think that the comments are fully welcome for the discussion at the IODE session. I'd like to talk a little bit about a successful example or in terms of data and information management, which was World Ocean Circulation Experiment carried out in basically 1990s, which is a global project to collect the oceanographic data, oceanographic parameters, mainly physical and chemical parameters, under close cooperation among the members of the IOC and other states. This is the example of the section observed during the period of the wars. The important thing of the wars is they had the global network was data system like this. The distributed data centers among members of the participating countries of the wars. For example, Japan Ocean Data Center was responsible for the collection and archival and the publication of the ADCP data, acoustic Doppler current profilers data, and many of the data centers participated in the project. The important point is the data management structure of data management implementation plan was already set at the starting point of the WOS. That is a very important point. And the successful story for WOS was based on the clear data policy and also the data management structure like this. We had the data management committee to monitor the data collection all over the WOS observations, and afterwards we had the data products committee to discuss to design the data products of the WOS. Okay, we had the concluding conference of WOS in San Antonio, United States in 2002. At that time, all of the WOS data are collected and published as the WOS global data. At that time, the internet was not very fast, so we decided to publish the data set in a DVD format. And last year, I met one of the active members of the WOS Data Products Committee, who was Rainer Schritzer, Alfred Wegener Institute of Germany. He said WOS was really successful, particularly in terms of data management and data products. So we need to follow the experiences of WOS. That is the message to the future activities, including UN Decade and other related project and program to follow, to utilize the legacy of the WOS. So before closing my talk, I'd like to just a little touch upon the IODE Oceanographic Data Exchange Policy. The spirit is stated like this in the preamble part: the timely, free, and unrestricted international exchange of oceanographic data is essential. Then the RC Oceanographic Data Exchange Policy was adopted as a decision at the IOC Assembly in 2003, I think. After the long and the careful discussion at the Intergovernmental Working Group on Ocean Data Policy, led by the Dr. Angus McEwen from Australia. And finally we agreed, and approved this Oceanographic Data Exchange Policy at the Assembly of the IOC. There are several clauses, but I'd like to touch upon the first one and the fifth one. First one is data under the auspices of the IOC. You can read it. Member states shall provide timely, free, and unrestricted access to all data, associated metadata, and the products generated under the auspices of the IOC programs. That is quite important the clause for us. And number 5 is also important for us because the member states shall, to best practices degree, practical degree, we need to use, as far as possible, we utilize the structure or activities of the IODE for the promotion of the oceanographic data exchange of the IOC. So, toward improved ocean data information management, I'd like to highlight like this. So to facilitate international open access to oceanographic data and information in a timely manner, fully based on the spirit or principle of the IOC Oceanographic Data Exchange Policy, and to ensure secure archive for all of such data and information, the possible approach I can suggest, particularly at the regional level, is to involve data and information management component in oceanographic research and services project from their planning, very beginning stage. That is quite important for us. After starting point, it is not easy for us to establish the workable data exchange mechanism. But before starting, we have to discuss about it, or hopefully we can make agreed on the implementation plan on the oceanic data and information management for the project. Second one is to encourage IOC member states to establish data and information nodes of IODE, including NODCs and ADU, associated data units and associated information units. I'm not talking about in detail about it, but IODE would like to expand our network through these activities. And third one is to enhance capacity development activities of oceanographic data in the information management at the regional level. It's depend on the requirement of each region, but one of the important aspects is how to develop the capacity in that region. So the conclusion again, so it is substantially important for us to promote the marine science research and services. The important point is to enhance oceanographic data and information management, not only global level, but also the regional level. And more effective ocean data and information management should be developed through closer cooperation between regional subsite bodies and the IODE, which will be discussed during the forthcoming session of IODE this week. And also, with regard to the UN Decade of Ocean Science Development, of course, we have to have the workable and effective component of oceanographic data and information management, hopefully before the beginning, right? Okay, thank you very much for your attention. And then continuous my talk will be followed by 6 talks, 10 minutes each. Yeah, so some kind of timer notified by Cindy, so you can. Okay, first one is this area, Western Pacific. I already touched upon a little bit, but Dr. Ken Ando, who is vice chair of the Westpac now. When you're ready.
おはようございます。同時通訳なんでせっかくですからこれを使いますので、私日本語で話します。So please use this one. I will talk in Japanese. 道田さんありがとうございます。本日はですね、この講演の機会を与えていただきましてありがとうございます。ジャムステックの安藤と申します。はい、私はですね、ここにありますように IOC の地域小委員会の副議長でありまして、AOGEO という地域活動の海洋タスクの共同議長でもあります。AOGEOS に関しましては後ほど説明しますが、地域における海洋データ、特に現場観測データの扱いについてウェストパックの視点と AOGEO の視点から手短にお話しさせていただきます。ウェストパックと AOGEO はですね、全く別の組織で、ちょっと話が混乱するかもしれませんが、IODE などですね、海洋データが流通していて、その中で様々な関係ができそうという話をいたします。まずはウェストパックから見た IODE との関係です。IOC または、IODE とウェストパックの関係は当然ながら、大変強くですね、ウェストパックは東インド洋から西太平洋を対象とした IOC の地域小委員会で、現在22カ国の加盟国によって運営されています。これまで11回の政府間会合と9回の科学シンポジウムを開催しました。で、 ウェストパックの活動エリアですが、我々はIOC のハイレベル目標に合わせて、4つの、優先研究領域を定めています。で、それらはですね、オーシャンプロセスとクライメット、それからマリンバイオダイバーシティと、シーフードセキュリティ、オーシャンエコシステムとヘルス、それからですね、エマージェンシーイシューという形で、プライオリティエリアを設定しています。で、それに対応して主な、活動としましては、海洋科学と、ポリシーのインターフェースを強化すること、それから、海洋観測とそのサービスを、継続的に、行うこと、それからマリンバイオダイバーシティとエコシステムヘルスに関して、検証することということになっています。で、ウエストパークですけれども、現在トップにセッション
As you can see at the very top, this WISPAC session, this is an intergovernmental session held biannually. And actually, there's 4 big functions. First of all is ocean observations and service and marine science and applications and capacity development and working groups. As you can see, for ocean observation service, actually, they're looking at many of the phenomena in many parts of the areas around the globe. And for training to the younger generation and also awarding or recognizing the younger generation, and RTRC, which is the regional training center. Actually, we have 2 of them, centers, mainly for marine climate change and for biodiversity. And I've heard there's going to be more centers being established in the and especially concerning IoT, this red letter area is going to be very much concerned. So goose and near goose is very much related in here. So observation data will be in here. And besides that, there is also the marine surface layer targeted research and looking at also ocean observation about regional goose activities. So this near goose, this is the ocean observations data being exchanged. So ultimately, what we would like to do is develop a ocean forecasting system. So in Japan, we are observing in the EEZ areas, mainly in cooperation with Russian. And for sea goose, actually the area targeted does not have much of ocean observations. So what we're trying to do is make projects in order to gather these some observation data. And recently, near goose as well as sea goose, the ocean forecasting system is being displayed on a real-time basis. And also acidification on coral reef ecosystems, such kind of pilot projects are taking place. And WISPAC, once every 3 years, there's a scientific conference. And last time in 2017 in Qingdao, China, the conference was held, and there were a lot of experts gathered at this occasion. And IOCD experts, some people that may be here, they had a session, and we had a good discussion. And thank you very much for your kind cooperation during that occasion. And I'm sorry we don't have much time, but the WISPAC's comments against towards IOD. So IOD, the data is very much limited. So in the WISPAC region, we have to look into this area. So IOD, in order to, we would like IOD to come in and cooperate us so that we could get more data. But on WISPAC side, we're kind of concerned that this data is not being shared very much. Of course, there is against this background, securities is such kind of an issue, and also there are cases that the data are compiled individually amongst different institutions. So data management and capacity development, IOD, we believe is going to be a key factor in order to promote that. And we have high expectations from Westpac side. And then talking about AODEO. AODEO, so basically it is using the satellite data, but it is also using in situ data. So actually, we don't have data of ourselves, but what we would do is we would be gathering data that other institution has gathered so that it can be utilized fully. So it is to make the infrastructure of providing these data. So even in Japan or in China, there are gaps, but basically it's the same idea. So in GEO, we're discussing what are the data that should be provided to BO. And that is the main activities for AODEO. And AODEO, the org chart is here. Very similar to Westpac. Instead of project, it's called task. It looks into carbon and food and ocean and biodiversity issues. And also there are other tasks, but basically it used to, Japan and Australia used to have two tasks, but a year ago we have actually integrated this, and the task right now is run under Ocean Coast and Island Task. And actually in October last year in Kyoto, we had a working group with 3 intentions. And then IODE, for IOD, what may be related to IOD is this red part here. So it's about APONS. APONS stands for Asia Pacific Oceania Data Network System. And data, it's not the data itself, but it's the data inventory and how can you accumulate it and expand that was the discussion. And the data system that we have right now is very primitive. On the very left, there's the Jamstack, which has the APOS server, and many institutions would be accessing data of University A or B through the database accumulated in Jamstack. This is a very simplified institution, but China and Korea can be accessed through our web. And each nation, including Southeast Asian countries, each country database, actually, we found out it has a very advanced system already. So we're discussing of changing our system. And any person from any country should be able to access any kind of data, whether it's in Japan or in South Korea. We already have a advanced infrastructure, but in Asian marine data, it's not really that much advanced right now. And so this networking is going to be made mainly next year. That is going to be our activity. And then the very last slide that I have. So how can we collaborate with IOD from AOD's perspective? So the 3 items here at the top is very similar to what is with Westpac. So number 4 and 5 is important. So in IOD, I've heard all this is being developed, and I think we have a similar idea here. But this is an area where we can share our information attention and collaborate. And then number 5, if a better understanding could be attained for AOGO. So then IOD and Westpac may have a more efficient activity, like SCG 14, IOD, Life and Water. It's supposed to be IOC taking the initiative. GEO needs to contribute because of the data that is available. But any goals to be achieved, but besides SDG, GEO can be also contributed. And of course, UN network is the basis, but GEO can also contribute. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Sorry again for the short time, but the next one is I would like to invite IOC Africa. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm going to make this presentation on behalf of Mika Udido, the coordinator of IOC Subcommission for Africa and adjacent island state. Is a subcommission of IOC, and it aims to promote regional and international cooperation for the understanding and management of African ocean and coastal ecosystem in order to ensure sustainable development and safety of coastal population, taking account of the priorities of member states for Africa. Within IOC Africa, the program in charge of data and information management is IODE Africa. IODE Africa has more than 40 institutions from 25 countries. Here in the map in yellow, you can see the countries participating to the network. And among them, there are 3 countries which host regional training center. They are Kenya, Mozambique, and Senegal. IODE Africa has 4 main objectives. First of all is expanding and strengthening the network of marine scientists, developing high-quality product and tools to support decision-making, to promote the use of product and service developed by the project, and to foster active collaboration between African countries and also at the international level. IODE Africa achievement. in terms of marine information management, here you have some product developed. We have institutional and regional library catalog. We have institutional, institutional repository. We have also the updating of the African component of Ocean Doc, the African record in Ocean Expert. We have also a database of marine-related projects in the region. And all these products have been consolidated and made available through IODE Africa website. And also various training courses have been organized for the development of this information product and services. In terms of outreach and communication also, an artwork competition from school and children have been organized and a book were published. For the data management side, here you can see the main product, the African Register of Marine Species, the Smart Atlas software, which has been developed to support the development of the coastal and marine atlases. And the regional one is the African Coastal and Marine Atlas. And there is also the African Note for the Ocean Data Portal, which has been established. Always in terms of achievement, IODE Africa has the network has been extended and strengthened with the network of marine scientists. And also various, a number of training courses has been organized to provide the necessary skills for the preparation of data. And also some sea-level stations have been installed in some African countries. During the development of this product and services, there are some challenges. The institution have big difference in terms of capacities, resources, and facilities. And also there are different types of institutions. And also there is the problem of staff mobility. This impact the sustainability of the product and services. For the next period, these are the main products we wanted to develop. First of all, it is the further development of the African Coastal and Marine Atlas. It should be upgraded, and the ACMA team will work with the Caribbean Marine Atlas to improve the functionality of the atlas. Also, it is planned to develop an African ocean data and information portal to improve access to ocean data and information, and also to assist in identification of data gaps to be filled through regional initiative. The third one is development of and implementing of marine biodiversity and biogeographic program. And this should be built on the African Register of Marine Species, AFREMAS, and also AFRIBIS. And the list, and not the last and not the least, the development of product such as regional transboundary marine spatial plan. And of course, in the coming days, we will request from the IOD committee support for this. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Arame. Okay, I'd like to invite the next one, which is the third region of the Summit Commission of the IOC, which is IODE XXV. The presentation will be made by Aria Toro, is one of the vice chair of the IOC now.
Good morning, everyone. And I will be making this presentation on behalf of IODE XXV. As it was mentioned, as one of our 3 subsidiary regional bodies at IOC. So from the beginning, the very beginning, and sorry, I'm doubting because this seems to be another presentation, slightly different from the one I had in mind. In any case, I'll take over this. We have basically 2 different regions or sub-regions within IODE XXV. And that means that we have a slight, sometimes bigger asymmetry in terms of ocean sciences, capacity, and as well as in economic development. We have countries that can qualify as mid-income countries, and other ones are small island developing states. Not only because of the dimension, but because of the low resilience, the high vulnerability, and high dependence on the ocean. So as for IODE XXV and main strategic lines, we can identify 4. The first one is oceans and climate. Second one is ocean science, technology, and sustainable use of coastal and ocean resources, with particular focus on large marine ecosystems, integrated coastal area management, marine spatial planning. But then we have another strategic line, and that's related to natural hazards and disaster risk reduction. And finally, we got the observing system and coastal hazards forecasting and early warning systems. So this is one of the cases that it's very recent. One of the problems, kind of a algae bloom, and it's the case of sargassum. So as you can see, the importance of correctly managing data and information and generating the products in support of decision making. Here you have the images from 2012 to 2018 and the evolution of the sargassum in the area, and that has created a lot of problems in the area. But unless we are able to present the case properly, then decisions cannot be made in due time. Of course, then we have natural hazards, and we have the problem with the hurricanes in the area of the Caribbean. They are subject to hurricanes, and for that, ocean observations are critical, just to determine if the tropical storm can turn into a hurricane or not, issue the appropriate warnings. But by the same token, then they also have the risk of tsunamis. So for the IODE Caribbean regional programs and projects, they go from, in the case of observations for sargassum and oil spills, as part of IODE Caribbean goose, the goose components in the Caribbean, to harmful algae blooms and network in the area to monitor seawater data or other harmful algae blooms, and as the case have just shown, the sargassum. Of course, we have an early warning system for the Caribbean. In the area, we also have a warning system for the Pacific coast of the countries that share also the Caribbean Sea. And the important thing here is, and we will come back later this afternoon when we talk about capacity development, to have the populations ready to react when you have a warning of this type of hazards. And for that, we need information, and for that, we need data and communication. One of the other elements I would like to cite is, for example, Caribbean Marine Atlas. This is built from the original first phase of Caribbean Marine Atlas into now the second phase of Caribbean Marine Atlas, providing the countries in the region with invaluable experience and expertise to work towards building indicators and having maps and supporting decision making. In terms of mapping the area, that we have in the Caribbean, the project for the international bathymetric chart of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico as part of ZEPCO. In terms of IODE, we have a network, it's IODE XXV, that covers the Caribbean in all Latin American countries. And we have very interesting experiences in terms of marine spatial planning and coastal area management, as well as working with other organizations with the Caribbean Large Marine Ecosystem Plus project, putting together the Caribbean Large Marine Ecosystem in the North Brazil Shelf LME. So as I said, we got the Caribbean Marine Atlas, starting with the first phase in 2009, and that evolved from having a national portals of spatial data into CMA2 with regional platform with indicators, and we have the able coordination of NBMR Colombia to move this forward. CMA2 project builds upon the experience gathered through CMA, as well as the strategic synergies built through, for example, CLME2 Plus, together with UNDP and JEF. The opportunities that Ocean Teacher provides for capacity development in the area. ICANN in the development of the coastal area network, maps and products. OBIS is our component of the Ocean Biogeographic Information System. As I said, IODE XXV and IAMSLIC in terms of information management. And we are proud to be contributors to Ocean Docs and have quite a good number of ocean experts in our database, in the IODE database. So CMA2 is some pilot partners, but that does not mean that the product is not available for the rest. So they are doing the work, and the Atlas is a good example and an element for decision all around the Caribbean, and an example for other areas. So we are building on CMA2 also to develop other initiatives. In terms of capacity development, in the last 5 years, the numbers in the area of the IODE Caribbean are quite impressive. The total number of people that received training, it's a little over 1,000, 1,079. Taking advantage of the Ocean Teacher Global Academy, we are fortunate to have a regional training center in our region. The training in tsunami, those are taking probably half of all the trainings in the region in the last 5 years. Training on harmful algae blooms, the training related to the Caribbean Marine Atlas II, training related to integrated coastal area management, and one of those cases will be the inclusion also of SPINCAM, although it's in the Pacific, but we had the opportunity to take advantage of that training for the whole area. And we had more than 24 countries participating. But also in terms of capacities, and this is a work carried out, a survey and research carried out by IODE XXV Secretariat. When we look at the full region, the Americas, we have a total of 777 ocean sciences program going from bachelor's degrees to PhDs. So if we take North America a little bit outside, that's 31.9%. Almost half of the trainings come from 5 countries: Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Argentina, and Colombia. And in the rest of the region, we have 22% of the trainings. And if you go back to the Global Ocean Science report that was cited earlier this morning by our Executive Secretary, Dr. Riavanen, you will see the scientific production of the region, and it's quite impressive. But you also need to remind why, when we started, we said we have important asymmetries in the region. So not all the region has the same capabilities or the same capacities. We benefit from the possibility, and in the case of IODE XXV, the advantage of working together with other networks, in this case, the Global Ocean Observing System regional alliances for the US and Canada. We have the IOOS. We have a specific component of GOOS in IODE XXV. And we work together with OCEATLAN and GRASP, different associations and different networks throughout the region that allow us to move forward, like LAOCA network for ocean acidification. All in all, it's good work going on, a lot to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ariel. Okay, now we are moving to the Indian Ocean. We have a regional committee of the Central Indian Ocean. So, Dr. Uri from INCOIS from India.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to make a brief presentation on IOC Regional Committee for the Central Indian Ocean on behalf of Dr. Atmanand, who is the chair of this IOC India. And we have 19 member states on this committee from the Indian Ocean region. As you are aware, IOC India has been inactive for the last 10 years, since 2006. And IOC India has been reactivated in 2016, and it's back on rails. So IOC India had 2 sessions, the 5th session in 2016 in India, and also the 6th session in Kuwait. These 2 successful sessions of IOC India has culminated into the development and adaptation of work plan for 2017 to 19, based on 6 functions of IOC as a contribution to each of them. So the revitalization has happened right at a time of strong interest, as a number of international initiatives such as IIOE2 and UN Decade of Ocean Sciences for Sustainable Development in the Central Indian Ocean region, which has brought great opportunities for a reinforced engagement of IOC Indio member states. Coming to the project proposals that has been developed and adopted by IOC Indio during the last 2 sessions, they are directly contributing to various IOC functions. The project proposals of IOC Indio, the first one is the effects of human-induced changes, ocean acidification, eutrophication, hypoxia, harmful algal blooms in coastal waters of northwestern Indian Ocean, which is contributing to the IOC function A, that is on ocean research. And coming to the ocean observing systems and data of function B, there is a project developed, ocean observations, coastal zone management, circulation and fisheries. Coming to the function C of IOC, ocean hazards, 2 projects has been developed and adopted, coastal vulnerability assessment for sea level rise and storm surges, monitoring with the responsible response of oil spill in inner open sea area respectively. So these 2 projects again comes under IOC function D, that is assessments and information for policy. In addition to these 2 projects, there are 2 another projects are developed, that is 2050 Integrated Ocean Policy Advice for Proactive Planning and Management for IOC Indio member states, Blue Economy Business Opportunities in the context of climate change, adoption and disaster risk reduction. So again, these 2 of these function D falls into the function E, that is governance, these 2 projects. And coming to the capacity development, which is under IOC function F, IOC Indio Network Research Infrastructures, Facilities and Human Resources Project, which is a direct contribution to this function, taking into account specificities in needs and capacities of the member states of IOC Indio. Coming to the activities of IOC Indio during the last 2 years after reactivation, IOC Indio has been contributed for expansion of regional and international partnerships and reinforced fundraising for the implementation of the IOC Indio work plan. And IOC Secretariat has has helped in establishment of funding agreement with the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is underway. So there is an Indian Ocean Science Conference that has held in 2018 in Jakarta. IOC UNESCO Perth Office has organized this event, which has brought again all the major stakeholders in ocean sciences and observations in the Indian Ocean region with a series of programs and meetings. So IOC Chairman and Technical Secretary has conducted a side event which has attracted interest of this program, stakeholders in this region. And considering these limited resources that are available, out of the 7 projects which were mentioned earlier, 2 of them have been decided to taken up immediately, that is Coastal Vulnerability Assessment for Sea Level Rise and Storm Surges, and IOC Indio Networking Research Infrastructure, Facilities and Human Resources. Also, new partnerships were established with BMKG, the LIPI, and IIoT networks of institutions and experts, and Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory at Columbia University. So other activities also includes IOC Indio participation in IOC Experts Group, which was held 21st to 23rd March at IOC UNESCO headquarters. And IOC Indio Technical Secretary has participated and contributed to the workshop and made a presentation on IOC Indio networking, research infrastructures, facilities, and human resources. Partnerships with the Nansen Environmental Centers in Europe and Asia and Africa also established. And an IOC Indio side meeting was held during Executive Committee at IOC Paris on 4th July. And IOC Indio has also contributed to the second of 2 regional workshops under the auspices of United Nations and assisted the regular process for global reporting and assessment of state of the marine environment, including socio-economic aspects for the Indian Ocean, including Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden and Ropmi Rikofi area, with the 2 representatives from IOC India and UNESCO Science Officer that was held in Doha, Qatar during November and December 2018. So this is a repetition. The second bullet is the representatives of IOC Indio together with UNESCO Scientific Officer supported as members of the working group for drafting the Chapter 31 on the developments in understanding of overall benefits from the ocean to humans. The IOC Indio Technical Secretary was designated as the rapporteur for this working group. So coming to another important initiative, which is the IIOE2. IIOE2 Joint Project Office at INCOIS Hyderabad has developed the website for IIOE2, and it is well maintained during the period and has been continuing with endorsement of scientific activities that are submitted. A metadata portal has been developed to make oceanographic data from this region discoverable and widely accessible. And this JPO endorsed 31 scientific projects that align with the IIOE2 objectives. All these details are available on this IIOE2 website. And also, IIOE2 metadata portal was developed, which enables actually search and discovery of metadata of completed and forthcoming, as well as planned cruises under IIOE2. And silent features of IIOE2 metadata portal includes like it follows the ISO 19015 standards, complete representation for metadata information, GCM designs keywords for controlled keyword search, as well as spatial and temporal search. And it is a simple interface for metadata submission and update, as well as search is developed. And we have uploaded the metadata pertaining to 6 cruises, as well as details on 16 expeditions. Basically, the cruise summary reports have been uploaded. The future activities of IOC Indio includes like organizing a workshop on national and regional framework and guidelines for coastal vulnerability assessment for sea level rise and storm surges in the IOC Indio region during 22nd to 26th April at INCOIS. And another activity is setting up of web-based database of all oceanographic related infrastructures like lab facilities, research vessels, and their capability, etc. of the member states. And initial implementation of communication packages, including website for IOC Indio, also is planned. And IOC Indio is fully committed to the success of United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development through the mobilization of IOC Indio member states and partners, and active participation of IOC Indio chairman as a member of the executive planning group. And IOC Indio's 7th session is going to be held back to back with the workshop which I have mentioned in my previous slide. This is the workshop on coastal vulnerability. I think it is going to be organized during this period. And IODE is called upon to secure a budget for in line for development and implementation of IOC Indio work package related to data and information. It is only through such a contribution that IODE program would be revitalized in the IOC Indio member states with greater visibility. So the IOC Indio thanks IOC Secretariat for the support given to them for revival and furthering the activities of this committee. And IOC Indio Chair thanks Dr. Vladimir, Executive Secretary, and Justin for all their support and guidance, as well as the Chair thank the co-chairs, Dr. Faiza from Kuwait and Dr. Najar from Iran, and also IOC Indio thanks all the member states for their support in reactivation of this IOC Indio. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is we are moving to the Northern Hemisphere, for the Europe. When the slide is ready, please start.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here and to give you a bit of an overview of some of the main developments in Europe. And I have to say it's a very exciting time for anyone involved in marine data management and sharing in Europe, because there's a lot of activities going on. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of progress have been made over the last 15 years in working towards a more open and interoperable data sharing framework in Europe. And that's largely possible because the importance of ocean data has risen greatly on the political agenda and has now been recognized at the highest level at the European Commission for some time now, that ocean data is a crucial and essential aspect to support societal needs in terms of research to improve our knowledge of the marine environment, but also to support marine management and protection, to support our policies and its implementation, but also to supply the needs of a growing blue economy, which requires more data and information to be developed in a sustainable way. And this has allowed us to increase the budget that is available for not only ocean observing in the member states, but also for a more open and sharing framework at the pan-European level. There's too many activities going on to really go into depth, but I will try to give you a little bit of an overview and an update of some of the major pan-European initiatives that have contributed greatly to the progress that we've made over the last 15 years. And these are different in nature and in scope, and also different in funding and the way they've organized and the focus that they have, the purpose, but they are interconnected and very much interdependent. We're talking about SeaDataNet, which is a network of oceanographic data centers that is existing for a long time. We're talking about archive data. We're talking about the Copernicus Marine Environmental Monitoring Service, which is part of the Copernicus Space Program, which is more an operational service. And then the third one is the last arrival, is the European Marine Observation and Data Network, which is much more multidisciplinary, and it's funded through another department. It's the European Commission Directorate General for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. So when we look at SeaData Cloud, and I thank the coordinator, Michel Fichot, for providing some updates on, and she's also here if you have further questions, on the achievements. SeaDataNet over the years have contributed greatly to developing standards, expanding vocabularies, applying linked data principles for richer metadata and searches, but also for handling different types of data, such as you can see on the right-hand side, on the top of the flow, cytometer data. But has also improved over the years the different services and developed important innovations that we are still using also in other services. Where are we today with the SeaData Cloud? We're moving the infrastructure to a cloud environment. The development is done, tests are being ongoing. And there's also developments going on developing the virtual research infrastructure. The next phase for the SeaData Cloud is to develop a new project, which will be submitted very shortly and is hopefully going to be starting later this year, if all goes well. The main aim here is to extend the SeaData Cloud consortium to include more data-centered and specific technical partners, providing further services for users with a focus on enhanced virtual research environment with data and tools for marine environmental studies, but also to enhance the data management procedure, the fairness of data and related services, including long-term preservation standards for metadata and data. The second initiative is the Copernicus Marine Environmental Monitoring Service, which combines observations both satellite and in situ to feed them into models and to generate ocean forecasts, but also developing ocean monitoring indicators. The in situ observing component is managed by the member states, but there is a strong coordination framework at the European level implemented by Mercator Ocean and the European Environmental Agency. And these efforts have really contributed to bringing the different data providers together in a coordinated way. The third initiative that I will like to bring to your attention is the European Marine Observation and Data Network, which is the latest of these three, started in 2009. It's much more broader, it's very multidisciplinary, working across 7 thematic areas, covering geology, biology, chemistry, physics, seabed habitats, and human activities data. That's also a novelty. It's a network of about 100 organizations, more than 100 organizations, that are collecting, assembling, and harmonizing data sets which are scattered across Europe and stored in different data repositories. It's a distributed data infrastructure, working a lot on interoperability. And on top of that, you have a central portal which provides a gateway to these different resources. Resources are the raw data, the metadata, but also developing data products such as MAP, such as a digital terrain model, and maps on marine litter, for example, that all generated based on the pool of data and showing the power of open data for a wider community. And also data services, offering data services to search, retrieve, visualize, and manipulate the data. And all of that is open for use, free of restrictions. All of these initiatives have some international or global component, or at least contribute to global initiatives. And I will give you a few examples of what we are trying to do now within the network that I'm managing. The European Marine Observation and Data Network has been asked by the European Commission to develop an EMODnet for global strategy to make the architecture, the data resources more useful, and the products that we generate also available to global initiatives for IODE, for GEOS, and for others. So we developed an EMODnet community page where we list what kind of resources are available for different communities around the world. But in fact, the different thematic data portals are often already global in nature. This is a screenshot of the different platforms that EMODnet Physics is making available in terms of the data. So data is being made available from very different platforms and sources in a harmonized way, in an interoperable way, made available through machine-to-machine communication tools. There's also collaborations going on around the globe. The SUSE Map project is a collaboration between the Southern Ocean Observing System community, where the partners provided data, and EMODnet Physics is providing the architecture, so the portal. A similar exercise is going on in the Arctic and also in the Red Sea. EMODnet is also contributing to marine global assessments. For example, EMODnet Biology is a fundamental pillar of international processes, such as the UN World Ocean Assessment, and is built on, as all of the EMODnet infrastructures are built on existing systems. So EMODnet Biology is built on Eurobis, and also generates a lot of data that is fed into the system. Around 20 million of the 50 million records of Eurobis are provided by EMODnet Biology. The new EMODnet digital bathymetry is also expanding coverage beyond European seas. And we are already contributing to the Ocean Data and Information System. There's a growing number of initiatives that from EMODnet and products and information that we are making available, and we will increasingly do so, both by the partners, the coordinators, and the Secretariat. To conclude, next steps and future developments, we will continue to work along the marine knowledge value chain to internally coordinate between the different initiatives, to align, also to work more toward providing information products to diverse range of users, but we stand ready to increase our efforts to feed data and products our expertise and also the architecture and contribute to global initiatives, including the UN Decade of Ocean Science. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. So next one would be the Henan from United States, who is talking about North American activities.
Okay. It is a real pleasure to be here and tell you a little bit about the developments in North America from the point of view of Canada, Mexico, and the United States. I would like to acknowledge the contribution from my co-workers or partners, Matthew in Metz in Canada and Carlos Torres in Mexico. From our colleagues and to the north, Canada, MET, the Marine Environmental Data Section, is the Canada's NODC since 1962. And over time, it has evolved as for operational oceanography and data management across Canada. It consists of 4 research institutes and 2 fishery centers and 2 biological stations across Canada. And they provide those services for the entire country. For recent activities, METS at the national level provides end-to-end data management for Argo, for fisheries, ocean gliders, tides, and water levels as the official archive, and provides of course, the oceanographic profile centralized archive for Canada, as well as wave buoy data archive and operational oceanography to the GTS process. In the international level, Canada is very active in the GTS data acquisition support for the GTSPP, the Global Temperature and Salinity Profile Project, as well as for Copernicus, Near Goose, and the Global Ocean Surface Underway Data Pilot Project. The emerging Marine Climate Data Service of distant buoys, and ICOAS, International Comprehensive Ocean Atmosphere Data Set for distant buoys. In terms of what they're working on and what they would like to work towards the future is the modernizing the data ingestion process for enabling management of new data types and formats, including buffer for meteorological data, increase the number of access points to METS data, including via web services and APIs, and improve the analytics capacity by using cloud technologies that we have heard from various speakers. They would like to work on streamlining the data exchanges with NOAA for the Ocean Carbon Data System, the World Ocean Database, CCHDO, the Cliver, and carbon hydrographic data, and with IOC for specific requests such as ocean acidification. They would like to work also on participation in developing a Canadian integrated ocean observance system to offer a better way to integrate the data services and data access. And they also would like to work on providing data support for the ocean tracking network of associated data units. For our colleagues to the south, Mexico, They are working towards developing this consortium of marine research institutions of the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean, CMAR. This is a consortium of 24 associated Mexican universities and hundreds of US institutions with the common goal of trying to come up with better ways to manage the sustainable resources and blue economy of the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. This is a very large undertaking. And as part of this process, they are also trying to, or parallel to this process, trying to come up with a common way to have ocean and coastal observance systems in a way that they can integrate what those assets are in the Gulf of Mexico and provide what those observance systems, which ones are needed, and to leverage which ones are available for that purpose. For where I represent the United States, for those of you who might not be familiar with, the United States had 3 data centers: the National Geophysical, the National Oceanographic, and the National Climatic Data Center, and those were merged in 2015 on what is now called the National Centers for Environmental Information. As such, we have now a very large repository of data in one place, which exceeds about 30 petabytes of data, and we expect that that data will grow to over 160 petabytes by the year 2030 because of the amount of satellite, for example, satellite data and model data that we expect to get. The United States is a very promoter of open data access, and so in 2013, it was delivered the U.S. Public Access to Research Results, which encourages and stimulates the accessibility of public data information. NCI over time has tried to work very hard to provide a service for data access to everybody. For example, on the left side, on the bottom, you see that we are the final repository for the Argo and BioArgo data. We are now providing the ocean carbon data system that CDAC had a role in the past, and we have continued their leading role. And we also are the repository for the Global Temperature and Salinity Profile program. On the other side, what we are trying to do is trying to automate the acquisition of data in a try to make it more pragmatic and more useful. For example, we are trying to automate the process for the National Science Foundation in the United States, the rolling deck to repository data management. We have automated a process for acquiring all the CCHDO data. On a quarterly basis, we are able to absorb all the data and try to incorporate not only the raw data, but also data into the Wilson database, which I'll talk in a little bit. And we are also working towards automating the NCI data repository for the NOAA fleet of ships and airplanes, so that all that data can be made available as soon as they are acquired. My colleague Pete Boyer will talk more about this, but I wanted to mention the Wilson database, which is an IODE project. And it's a very large undertaking in which on the left side, we tap a lot of sources of data, which you can imagine they are all in different formats, and archive them and make them accessible in the NCI archive, and transform them to the Wilson database or the ocean profile portion and put them in one digital format so that we are essentially integrating all that data into a usable database that in turn could be used to develop products by anybody. For example, I mentioned a few of those. For example, The World Ocean Database is the Center for Marine Meteorology and Ocean Climate Data, CMOC, under the JCOM, Marine Climate Data System. Is used for boundary conditions, for example, for ocean modeling. Of course, is used for developing the World Ocean Atlas. Is the IQOD International Quality Control Ocean Database for temperature, and is used for data that supplies data to IQODs and big data for NOAA and so on and so forth. The challenge is, part of the challenge is how to optimize all the flow of data that is on the left side and provide all the data to provide value added so that the community can take advantage of this. So that's a good segue for my last point. Vladimir and Julian have talked about this as part of the Ocean Decade. In the background, you see there is a large array of hardware that will be deployed as part of the UN Decade. And the premise of the UN Decade, as Vladimir and Julian alluded earlier, is that it will be a 10-year global project in which scientific data will be used for providing a basis for sustainable use of the ocean. And besides the incredible challenge of putting all this hardware in the water, there are two things that I would like to encourage us here and everybody to think about how best put our best foot forward. And one is, on the left side, is the data, how the flow of the data might work. This is an incredible amount of data that will be available. How that flow will work, and how best to talk about petabytes of data, satellite data, in situ data, and so on and so forth. How that will work is one challenge. The other challenge of the equation is that the ideally is the unrestricted use of that data, so that governments and data policies and can make informed decisions on making societal relevant decisions about what is best for the sustainable use of the ocean. Without these ingredients, I think it would be very difficult to make the best use of the information. Strategies without data are just opinions, and I think that we need to strive towards that. And with that, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Could I ask all of the speakers from theme 3 to come back to the stage so we can have a little bit of a discussion period? And Paula Sierra of Invamar in Colombia has offered to moderate this session for us. We're already technically at the end of our first morning session of this meeting, but I think the opportunity to ask questions is really important and have discussion, since we couldn't do that after each presentation. So I am going to give us the full 10 minutes. It'll shorten our lunch break a little bit. I'll apologize on Yutaka's behalf. He had to go off to a ministry meeting, very important. And so I offered to fill in for him just to close out this session. So we have all of the theme 3 speakers back here for regional activities. Paula, would you prefer to stand there or at this one?
Okay. First of all, let me say thank you for all of our speakers and for their interest in regional developments and in this kind of issues in data and information. In line of the UN Decade, the presentation of the regional developments identified the necessity to share in a transparent and easy way the data and information, and also the strengthening the network of uses of the scientific expertise and also from the data and information. And we also saw that asymmetry of the different regions and also into the regions. And now we have the opportunity to make some questions for our speakers. Now we have a different advances for the different regions on the table, and we have little time for this part of the conference. And please raise your hand and say your name and region or institution and give us your question, please. It's a hard time because it's before the lunch, so please.
Good morning, Alessandra Giorgetti from Europe, from IMODNet Chemistry. And I was really very pleased to see the IMODNet has one of the IOD developments presented here today. And I was wondering how to make it also more linked with IOD environment and with the audience. And if there is any connection with audience set, which was mentioned in the morning by Professor Yutaka.
Well, there is no formal link between IMODNet as such and IODE, as you know. But I'm open to listen to, for me it's also a bit trying to find out what our role could be. So this is more, I think, an open question for the IOD community as well.
Okay. Anyone else of our speakers? No? Oh, please.
Thank you. Hamam Riza from Indonesia. I'm just wondering because currently the Indonesian government is revamping, re-establishing a multi-hazard early warning system through government presidential regulation. So I'm wondering how IODE is related or contributing to multi-hazard early warning system. Any of the speakers probably have something to elaborate on those topics. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your questions, and I would probably my colleagues would try to expand on this. But on the one side, you need to take into account the efforts of IODE through its capacity development to ensure that not only data is available, but people are able to generate the products and the services that are necessary for the early warning systems. And together with that, we have the communication strategies and the ocean literacy, and that will, in turn, in the case of early warning systems, for example, in the case of tsunamis, to have tsunami-ready communities. So we have to inform them on the basis of the data and the information we produce with it.
Okay.
How about Dr. Ando? You have anything, any suggestion from Jamstack? Yeah.
So,
I saw how the information exchange through XML database within this Westpac.
I think from the Westpac perspective, I think tsunami issue is just out of scope of Westpac. So, yeah. So sorry, nothing to say.
Okay. More one question?
Yes, thank you to the speakers. I am Francisco Arias from Colombia. It was mentioned that we have a huge symmetries in between the different regions. But I also believe that we have also great asymmetries within each region. So what would you think that would be a good strategy actually to bring things a little bit closer between the different countries and within the regions?
Thank you.
I'm afraid I was one of those who said there was kind of an asymmetry even within the region. In the case of our common region, Latin America and the Caribbean, we have asymmetries. For example, in the case of data management, access to data, we have some countries that do not have any proper structure to manage the data. Some of them are very good. And thanks for, in that case, for example, having the regional training center has been aiding a lot to leveling up those who do not have the possibility to access and use the data. And that together with the projects we have in place in different areas like marine spatial planning or coastal area management. But we need to work harder on that. And it's a problem. You may also find in our case, as I mentioned, we have over 700 courses or studies throughout the region. But in some cases, the countries are investing to develop capacities, and then the people will probably leave the country or do something else. And that's a different story. For that, I do not have an answer. I know we do have a problem.
Okay, please.
I'm Taco de Bruin from the Netherlands, and I have a question to all the speakers of this session. Jan Bart Kallewaert, during his presentation, presented EMODnet, and EMODnet, as he explained, produces a series of products, and the products are defined by what the European Commission, funding the EMODnet initiative, is asking. And the question is whether this idea of a network which addresses certain questions can be applied to all the other regions and all the other continents, and that whether you could envisage an EMODnet at your own regional level.
Okay. Bueno, it's a general question. One of our speakers.
Does anybody want to start? Well, let's say what you asked, Taco, that's a big question. A tall order to answer, but I will say that there are a few things that ideally should happen in the idealized world, I guess. One is that we need to understand and come out to the realization the oceans is not a region, and that the global ocean problems affect all of us, and in some way we need to come to grasp or grips with the fact that information is what allows countries to make informed decisions based on science. And so I think that what we need is a way to go beyond these regions, which are understandable. They are based on funding, and there's a lot of regulations in each country, and that's all well understood, and one has to be very careful about those things. But on top of that, we need to realize that that information is what enables us to move forward in an intelligent manner about how we're going to use the ocean. But not only that, is that the emergent variability in the ocean is so large that you cannot have a box of chocolates of information in different places and instantaneously come up with information that can be used to provide mitigation things for environmental problems. So I think it's a very complicated problem, but one that I hope that the UN Decade provides a way to lead in some way that process moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much for your questions and for, sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
yeah,
No, I just
right,
wanted to clarify a little bit what the scope is. It was very difficult to explain it in the short presentation time I had. But I think what the European Commission tried to do with EMODNet comes a little bit back to some of the points that Mr. Barbieri said in his introduction, that today data is being collected, marine data is being collected by many more groups just than the research community, and users need access to research data, but also monitoring data, data collected increasingly by private companies. And it's the power of pulling that all together, which is really the richness both for the research community and for all of the other users. And so EMODNet is something that extends really beyond these different communities and tries to unlock and intercombine these data resources. And data products is not the end goal, it's really opening access to the raw data so that any kind of user community can develop their own products, just to clarify.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you for being here, and it's all for our question. Now, Cynthia have some logistic information.
Thank you to all of our speakers in Theme 3. Thank you, Paula, for moderating that session. Taco, I especially like that last question. And Yutaka had to go off, as I said, to a ministry meeting, but he offered to answer questions if people had questions for his talk during the afternoon break. And Taco in particular, I think he'd be very interested in at least thinking about your question, if not responding to it. It's a very thought-provoking question, one I think we would all do well to ponder for our regions and IODE in the larger context. So we're at lunch. We're at the lunch break. We have less than an hour, which is not a lot of time. You will be going downstairs in this building, at least. There are lots of choices. You have information on the meal offerings that are available to you. There's, I don't know how many. There are lots of shops that serve food in the basement of this building. And then please come back here promptly at 13:40, so 20 minutes to 2. We will begin again with Theme 4 on capacity development. So we'll start right at 13:40. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Paula. L'Oreal.